Okay, good Tavach, wonderful people. As we are sponsored tonight, A.B. Spry here in the shul, Agad Yisrael Be'ezev of Lakewood. We roll out the red carpet of welcome to you, my good friend. We welcome everyone here, as we welcome in Eddie Chazan and Aaron Swade and Ben Sion Cohn, Mel Zapter, and that is... I think it's Yitzim. I think it's Avram Rezepkovitz. Michal Saba. We welcome in Shimon Klein and Irving Fishbaum, Bruce Eisenberg, Dr. Guy Stephen Holtzman, Gedalia Engel from East Boca, Nachman Chappell, Marshall Castle, Menachem Umansky, it's Fuchs, Yisrael Fisher, Rabbi Kranz looking better and better, Ilya Shutman, Moshe Lehman, Barbach, Chaim Braun, Yitzri Muller, Shelley Zeitlin joining us for our 26 Yud K Vav K. We welcome in Jas Garbarsky, David Helfgott on Kololoshin. We welcome, as I said, A.B. Spry and Reb Halpert and Reuven Shannon, Michal Avram, Reb Erish Gesselman. It's good to have all of you. We are learning, as I said, A.B. Spry is sponsored for the safety of our troops and all of Klal Yisrael, Shimon Klein, Nishmas Asher Ben Yehuda, Gittel Bas Shimon Pinchas, Irving Fishbaum, for Shalem for Issa Ben Razel, and Eliezer Ben Razel. We're just joined by Sandy Grunfeld. We also learned from Meir Ben Chayesara. They should have a refuah Shalem B'Sech Shechel Yisrael. We are going to attempt, Rabbi Isaac, to learn 3 blot tonight. The second blot is very small. It shouldn't be longer than we usually are sitting here, although the first blot is very long. But let's see if we could have Siyata Dishmaya. We dedicate this learning to, I want to be able to celebrate our anniversary and not to give shir Monday night. So this way we'll learn 3, we'll have a shir, only one shir tomorrow night, and regular time at 8, and then we will have a night off on Monday, a rare night off on Monday evening. That
to a hockey game?
That's the plan. Probably not to a hockey game, but maybe out to dinner. We'll see. Maybe we might go. We're definitely going to Rimnitzer Rebbe to be mispal there and to thank the Rimnitzer Rebbe for helping us. My wife, before she got married, she went many years to pray by the Rimnitzer Rebbe, so we're going to probably go there. And maybe we went when we were Chassan and Kala to the Square Rebbe. So we'll see if I could get into the Square Rebbe. Maybe we'll go to the Square Rebbe. But anyway, we are holding at the Gemara on the bottom of Tzadik Chesamid Beis. Gemara on the bottom of Samach Chesamid Beis. Amar Ravasi. Lo yishanu el shenosan lecheresh sheida teva umigdal. When do we say that the craftsman has to pay if he breaks the item that he was supposed to fix? That's only if, let's say, who could we pick as a craftsman? Marshall. Marshall is a craftsman. It's only if I give the craftsman a sheda table, a migdal, a chest, a box, or a cupboard. L'na'atz ben masmer. I tell him, look, could you knock in some nails? And Marshall, what was I thinking? L'na'atz ben masmer, and he knocked in the nails with shibron, and he broke it. So that's when he has to pay for it. Avol, however, Nosan lecheresh, if I gave the craftsman eitzim, lasa sheda tevel amigdal, and I said to Marshall, make me a chest, box, or cupboard. V'asamem sheda tevel amigdal, he made the chest out of the wood that I gave him. He made the chest. He fashioned the box. He developed the cupboard, and then v'shibron, then potter. Then all he has to do is give me back the wood. The reason why is because when he fashioned the chest, the box, or the cupboard, umin kaina b'shvak keli, Marshall acquires the improvement. and therefore we're partners in it. And when he broke it, he broke his part. That's the way the Gemara looks at it. Let's see it inside. My time, what's the reason? Because kaina b'shva keli, the craftsman, that's Marshall, acquires the improvement. So the Gemara says, well, let's see how that works in our Mishnah. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Nasan l'omen teva, Nasan l'omen v'kilkalu, if we give it to Marshall and he ruins it, chayavim l'shalim. He has to pay for the full damage that he did. Now, my love, the Yovlu Eitzim, isn't it talking about where I gave him wood, he made it into a chest, and then he ruined it, that he has to pay me for the chest, unlike we just said. It says, well, look, Shaded Teva and the Migdal. It's talking about where I gave him the chest, the box in the cupboard, and he just smashed it. Hamidik Tani says, but Hamidik Tani Sefer, since it says in the Sefer, another case. Shada Tevo Migdal, that where I give him the chest, the box in the cupboard, and he ruins it, he has to play. Michmal, the Reisha eats him. The implication is that the first case of the Mishnah is where I gave him wood, he fashioned it into a chest, and then he broke it, and he still has to pay. So the Gemara says, no. Amrei Pirusha Kamafarishla. The Mishnah is explanatory. It's not talking about two different cases. Rather, it's clarifying. It's explaining. Ketzad, where does Marshall have to pay? That's only Nasan L'Uman L'Sakin, where I give him the chest to fix it, the kilkalu, and he smashes it, Chayav L'Shalim. Kegain Shanasan L'Cheresh Sheidav Tevel L'Migdal, where I gave him the chest, the box in the cupboard. And it's B'Hachinami Mistaber, and it's reasonable to assume the Ketzad Ketani, that it's being explanatory. Because if it's not being explanatory, then one of the cases is redundant. The Yisrael Kedai the Reisha ate him, that the Reisha is talking about where I gave him wood. He fashioned it into a box, and then he broke it, and he's still chayav to pay me for the box. Hashdash meaning, if we even teach the case of Eitzim Chayavim L'Shalem, and we don't say he acquires the improvement, V'lo Yamrino Numekoin B'Shvach Kelim, so Sheda Teva Mibigdol Mibai, do we have to say where I give him the box and he breaks it that he's chayiv? That would be superfluous. That would be redundant. So the Gemara says, well, the redundancy is not a proof. Because maybe it's clarifying that the Reish is talking about where I gave him the raw materials. Imisham ha lo yirya. That wouldn't be a proof, because Tana Seifa, perhaps it says the second stanza, Ligluye Reisha, to reveal that the first stanza is talking about where I gave him the raw material. Shaloi Tema Reisha, that we shouldn't say that the Reisha is talking about only where I gave him Sheda Teva Migdal and he smashed it. Aval Eitzim loy, but if I gave him the wood and he fashioned it into a box and then he broke it, he wouldn't be chayiv. So Tana Seifa Sheda Teva Migdal, the Seifa says the case where I gave him the finished product, Mechlal the Reisha is talking about even if I gave him the raw wood. Eitzim Vafilo Hachi Chayiv L'Shalom. And therefore, we don't have a proof whether we say Umen Koina B'Shvach Keli. And again, let's just clarify in our minds what we are questioning. We're questioning where I give Marshall the wood, and then he fashions the wood into a chest, and then he breaks it. There is an opinion that we say Umen Koina B'Shvach Keli, that Marshall acquires the improvement that he makes. He becomes a partner in it, and then when I pay him, I'm buying that addition that he made. And therefore, until then, if he breaks it, he's not chayiv because he's breaking the item of his own, the part that he partnered in, and therefore he only has to pay me the value of the wood, and that's it. So that's what we're debating. So lema misayale, let's bring a proof. Hanoisin semer litzave. If I give wool to a dyer, and Marshall burns it in the vat, so he burns my wool. So nice and like the mate simra, he only has to refund me the value of the wool. The mate simra in only the value of the wool. The mate simra v'shivcha like, but not the value of the wool and the improvement that was done to the wool. Now, if you hold that Umen is kind of b'shvach keli, so that's why he doesn't have to refund me the improvement. But otherwise, why shouldn't he have to refund me for the improvement too? Lav shekdichai la'achar nefila. Isn't it talking about where it got burnt after the dye was already cast? It was already set in the wool. The ikar shifcha, and we see that he doesn't have to pay for the improvement. Bishmamina umin koina bishvakeli. We see that the craftsman acquires and he becomes a partner in the improvement, and therefore that's why he doesn't have to pay for it. Shmuel, so Shmuel says no. It got burnt right away before the improvement set in, the leka shivcha. But if it got burnt afterwards, he has to pay for the wool and the shvach. Are you going to say lema Shmuel less later Ravasi? Are you going to say that Shmuel doesn't hold of Ravasi that an uman is kaina b'shvach keli? And he doesn't have to pay for the improvement that he did. Excuse me. He's going to have to pay for the improvement because if Marshall doesn't acquire the improvement, which would be very important to know, as Rashi says, because we paskin like Shmuel bedin. Shmuel says no. It's talking about where the wool and the dye all belonged to me. And all that Marshall was taking was his time, payment for time. Says the Gemara, but if that's the case, then he should have to refund me for the dye that I gave him. Rather, the Gemara says you cannot formulate from here a definitive opinion of what Shmuel holds. Shmuel was just playing devil's advocate that it's not necessary that Shmuel holds this way. It's not necessary that from this brisa you could prove one way or another. He's just pushing off the proof, but it's not necessarily that he holds one way or the other. So Tojma, if let's say I give my cloak, now here the Gemara digresses for a moment as we welcome in Mo Kushner for our 27th Zoomer of this young Matzai Shabbos. The Gemara now tells us that it digresses to we know that there's a halacha that you're not allowed to withhold the wages of somebody that did work for you. And if somebody finishes at midday and you don't pay them by sunset, you're over loisolin, you're not allowed to leave over pulas socher. That's why many people are very, very careful to pay a babysitter right away so that they shouldn't be over loisolin. There's a famous story about the stipler that kills Yaakov in his old age going through the street to pay somebody who did some of his Killis Yaakov writing or typesetting, and to make sure that he got paid that day when he finished the work. This is a very serious thing. However, if I give my cloak to Marshall, Gomroi, if Marshall finishes the work, and he informs me that it's ready for pickup, even if I don't pay him for 10 days, because he didn't deliver it to me. If he delivered it to me, I would have to pay him right away, but he didn't deliver it to me. But if he delivered it to me at noon, once sunset comes, now, the Gemara says, but wait a second. If Marshall made an improvement on my cloak, and we say that umin kaina b'shvach keli, that he inquires the improvement that he made, then when I pay him, I'm buying it back from him. Then I'm not paying a wage. I'm making a purchase. and there's no loy solon on a purchase, I'm not leaving overnight the payment. I'm making a purchase. Says the Gemara, Amar Rab Mori Brei de Rav Kahana. It's talking about begarda de sarvela. It's talking about a cloak that the work was done on it to soften it. So there's no improvement in the cloak. Since there's no improvement in the cloak, that's not considered umen b'kaina b'shvak keli. Rather, it's a wage, the leka shivcha. So the Gemara says, but that's not so. If the cloak was being finished and it's being what they call, it's being teaseled, it's being softened, what did I give it to him for? To soften it. Once it's softened, it's worth more. Hainu shivcha. That's an improvement. And if it's an improvement, then he acquires that improvement. And when I pay him, I'm buying it back. I'm buying back that improvement. And then there shouldn't be loy sullen. Says the Gemara, loy tzricha de agre lebiche, where I am paying him to stamp it. This means when the weave is fresh, there are little holes in the beged. Now, of course, you don't want to have little holes in the beged. People could see flesh. You don't want people to see your flesh and the little holes in the beged. So they stamp it so the weave should be pressed together close that it's not see-through. There's no small holes. And the way that works is bitcha b'mas. I pay for each stamping a certain amount. So there it's clear that I'm paying for what's done, and since I'm paying a wage per stamping, so then if I delay that wage past sunset, I'm going to be over. The hainu schiris. Says the Gemara, Ulamaides sola kadaitim meikara, deloy igre lebiche, that I'm not paying for stamping it, rather I'm paying for a contractual arrangement, not per hour, but a contractual arrangement for softening the beged, and we had a havamina that there should be an isser of loy sullen, then Messiah Leila Rav Sheshes, that would be approved to Rav Sheshes, that for kablonis, for a contractual agreement, where you pay for the job and not per hour, there's still a lav of loy sullen. The Baimina Rav Sheshes, kablonis, a contractual agreement, over mishum bal sullen or ain't over. V'amalu Rav Sheshes over. There is bal sullen by a contractual agreement. So the Gemara says, lema de Rav Sheshes. Let's say that which Rav Sheshes says that kablonis, a contractual arrangement, pligi ad Ravasi, because Ravasi says that when you contract to make an improvement, the uman is kind of a shvak keli, and then it's a purchase, so then there wouldn't be a lav of leisalan. So Rav Sheshes that says by a contractual agreement there is a lav of leisalan would seem to be arguing on Rav Asi's whole yesod of uman kind of a shvak keli. So he says no, it's talking about a contractual agreement where there is no improvement, where you contract someone to deliver an important document to somebody. So it's a contractual arrangement where there's no improvement, and there where there's no improvement, so you're over on Baal Salan, as the Gemara explains. It's talking about a courier, where a courier was contracted not by the hour, but to do the job, to deliver these important papers. And there we say that if he finished the job at sunset, at noon, if you don't pay him by sunset, you're over loy salam. So the Gemara says, Lema ketanoi. Let's say that this subject of umin kaina b'shvak keli is dependent on the following machlokes tanoi. What's the machlokes tanoi? Asali sherim. Now here is a good example. I told you that Artsko came around and really helped us in pronunciation. I think when I learned in yeshiva, I always pronounced as shirim. but Artsko says that the correct pronunciation is Sherim. There are different, I think even in Artsko itself, I've seen different translations of Sherim. Some translated as chains. Here they're translated as anklets. So let's say Sarah, who is a fine young lady, tells Chatzkel, make me anklets, or nizamim, or nose rings, or tabois, or finger rings, v'akadesh loch, and I will be then betrothed to you. No, let's do it for my Kiddushin. Kevan she'asan, once he does it, and he says, of course he has to say, Ariat Mekudeshes li, she is Mekudeshes, Divrei Meir. The Chachamim say just for doing the work, ain't a Mekudeshes. He's not Mekudeshes. Remember, what happened is she gave him the raw materials. And she said, make for me, out of it, anklets, nose rings, and I'll be betrothed to you. When he does it, she's Mekudeshes. He has to, of course, say, Hariat Mekudeshes. Divrei Meir. The Chacham say no. Ain't a Mekudeshes actually yagir mama liyada. He has to give her, besides the work that he did, he has to give her a pruta. He has to give her money. The work that he did, can't betroth her. Now, my mammon, what does it mean he has to give her money? Ilema oisa mammon, that he has to give her the anklets, the nose rings, the rings. Michlal de Rameh Sav oisa mammon loy. He doesn't even have to give the anklets if he doesn't give it to her. Elavamai mikdasha. Elapshita my mammon, when the Chacham say that he has to give money, it means other money. Mammanacha. So what's going on over here? So first of all, you have to know, you can't be Mekadesh a woman by forgiving a debt. Because that's old money. You're not giving her anything new now. So the Gemara wants to hypothesize over here that that the debt for work done, the meter goes from the moment he works until he finishes the work. And therefore, the money for the work is a debt. You can't be Mekadesh her by forgiving the debt for the work that he did. So my love, it must be that when he converts the gold into an anklet, he acquires the improvement. Oh, if he acquires the improvement, it's his. So then when he gives it to her, he's giving her something now. And then she's going to be engaged. The Rabbanan hold, no, he doesn't acquire it. He's only forgiving the debt. And forgiving the debt, you can't be Mekadesh until you give her new money. So the Gemara says, look, no, that's not the argument. Maybe everybody holds that he doesn't acquire the improvement. Here they're arguing whether the work that he did is she starts owing him the money as soon as he does the work, and therefore now when he gives it to her, he's just forgiving a debt, and for forgiving a debt, he can't be Mekadesh. Remeir Savar, thank you very much. Abi, did you ever meet my new Rebbetzin? You did. Abi is here. Remember from Eretz Yisrael? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'hakol niyeh b'dvaro. That's right, I forgot. Eretz Yisrael. That's before COVID? Before COVID, right? Before COVID.
Rabbi, who's getting you water in my absence?
Yeah. Good people. Tonight Barish did, and the day before, I think Michal did. They're good people. But don't worry, your place is solid. Don't worry.
That's when Gedalia spikes the water.
Yeah.
It says it right on.
Marshall, if you would bring me the water, I would need a wine taster.
You could just taste test it with your tongue.
Now, so anyway, the Gemara says no. Everybody holds that he didn't acquire the improvement when he made it into an anklet. But whether the meter on his work starts as soon as he does the work. It's only when he delivers it that it's due. So then it's not a debt, it's active right now. So he's giving her something. And therefore it's considered a debt, and you can't be mekadosh with a debt. It's from beginning to end, and therefore it's a debt. But could you be mekadosh a woman by foregoing a debt? The Rameh Savra Mekadosh B'Milva Mekudeshes. You can be mekadosh her by foregoing the debt. Rabbanan Savra Mekadosh B'Milva Eina Mekudeshes, and therefore you have to give other money. Or as the Gemara says, Rabba Amar. Rabba says, the Kuli Alma Yeshin L'Schiris Mitchil V'Atzayif. Everybody holds that it's a debt because the meter goes up as soon as he does the work. Or the Kuli Alma HaMekadosh B'Milva Eina Mekudeshes. You can't be mekadosh with a debt. Or the Kuli Alma Ein Umen Koine B'Shvak Keli, that he doesn't acquire the improvement in the anklet. So then according to the Rabbanan, why is she Mekudeshes? You know what happened over here? Our Don Juan over here, our Chatzkel, when he made the anklet, he added a small ruby of his own. So now he's giving her something. So then what's the reason why the Rabbanan say it's no good? He added a bauble of his own. Besides the raw materials that she gave, he added a little ruby. Rameya says, Milva Upruta, where he's foregoing a debt and also adds a ruby, Data Pruta. She knows that he's only being mekadosh her with that new bauble, and therefore the kedushin is good. While Rabbanan hold, no, Milva Pruta, she's just thinking, wow, he did the whole job for me for nothing. Her mind is on the Milva, and you can't be mekadosh with a Milva. Daita Milva. Oberplukta the Hani Tanai, and they're arguing with the same argument as the following Tanai. The Tanya, B'schar she'asisi imach, you should be I should be mekudeshes for the work that you did for me in the past. Eina mekudeshes. It's not a good kedusha.
I did for you.
It should be the time. He says to her, with the work that I did for you, eina mekudeshes. For the work that I will do for you, Mikudeshes. Reb Nosson says neither are good. For the work that I will do for you, and Mikudeshes, and for sure with the work that I did for you. Reb Yehuda Nasi Yomi be'emes amru, either are no good. But if he adds a little bauble, if he adds a bauble of his own, then Mikudeshes. So the Gemara says, "Bein Tanel Reb Nosson ikibinayus schiris." In other words, according to the Tana Kama, if he says the work that I did for you, so that's clearly a debt, so that's no good. If he says the work that I will do for you, and then he delivers it to us, since yeshna l'schiris lebesayif, he's giving it to her now, and then that's not a debt. While Reb Nosson holds that even if he says the work that I will do for you, when he gives it to her, the work started ticking from the time he started, so therefore that's also, since Yeshn l'schiris metchila v'atzayif, that's also a debt. While the Tana Kama holds ein l'schiris ela b'sayif, the Tana Kama holds ein l'schiris ela b'sayif, so when he gives it to her, he's giving her something now, and she's mekudeshes. Bein Reb Nosson and Reb Yehuda Nasi Ikebeinau Milva Pruta. That Reb Nosson holds that if he adds a little bit of his own, her mind is not on the little bit extra, but on the forgiving the job, and therefore the kedushin is no good. While Reb Yehuda holds that if he adds a little bit of his own, her mind is on what he added, and then the kedushin is a good kedushin. Now, the Gemara starts a new topic. Amar Shmuel. We have in mind, by the way, as we learn, to be mekayim the mitzvah of Dibar Tabam, which is the mitzvah d'oraisa of learning Torah, lasas nachas ruach liyitzreinu, starting the week off in a very, very wonderful way. Amar Shmuel, Tabach Uman, a professional sheikhet. In other words, he's a skilled hand, not marshal. A skilled hand. Rabbi Kranz, Shekilkel, that he messes up the shechita, chayiv l'shalom. He has to pay for ruining the animal. Maziku, he's a mazik, a damager. Paishayahu, naasik kaimelay. It's as if I said to him, shchait li mikan, shecht over here, v'shachat li mikan, and he shechted in the wrong place. So the Gemara says, why does he have to say the double lashon? Lamalei lameima maziku, he's a damager, paishayahu. So the Gemara says, Iyamar maziku, if we would say just that he's a mazik, I might think that it's only where I paid Rabbi Kranz. Where I paid him. But if he did it for free, he's not chayiv. Kamash Malan Peishayahu. He's negligent, and therefore he's chayiv even if he did it for free. So Eisvei Rav Kama Bar Guya l'Shmuel. So Rav Kama Bar Guya asked Shmuel, it says, Hanoisin behemel letabach, if you give your animal to a butcher, we assume this means a professional sheikhet, v'nibla, and he makes it an avela, in other words, he ruins it, umen potter, a professional is potter, head yoid chayiv. If he's an amateur, he's chayiv. Amateur shouldn't have done it. V'im noisin schar, if you pay, bein head yid bein umen chayiv, then even the professional is chayiv. But here it says that if he's a professional and he does it for free, he's not chayiv, which is shver on Shmuel, who says that he's a peisheya, and therefore he's chayiv even if he did it for free. Amalei, so Shmuel answers him very sternly, and he says, Lechar moichech. Lechar means when water is murky. He says, let your brain be murky. In other words, you're not thinking through what I'm saying. So also Rabbanan, a certain rabbi, we don't mention his name, we don't embarrass him. Also Rabbanan, and he asked him the same question. Over here it says that the professional, if it's for free, it's potter. Amalei, so he tells the rabbi, Hashta shoklis, my deshokal kabrech. You're going to get the same response that I gave to your companion. Because Kaminu Luchu Ana Reb Meir, I am citing the opinion of Reb Meir, who holds that a person is held more liable. V'kamri suli rabbanan, and you're asking me from a dictum of the rabbis. Amayloi daikis mili. Why aren't you more careful? Why didn't you scrutinize my words more carefully? Shani oimer maziku peisheyahu. I called him a damager, a negligent. It's as if I said to him, shkaitli mekan v'shkaitli mekan. Now, man shkait lo mekan v'shachat lo mekan. Shechted him shkaitli mekan v'shachat lo mekan. Shechted me over here, and he shechted him from over there. Now, man islay hai svara, that we are so particular on the person. Remeir, he should have implied himself better. No, it's here's what happened to Rabbi Kranz. He was shechtling the animal, and the animal gave a sudden lurch, and that caused him to ruin the shechita. So he should have applied himself. He should have been expecting that. So which Reb Meir holds that even if it's something that could be defined as an accident, we still hold him accountable. So, hey, Rameir, which Rameir is this? Ilay Mahor Rameir, if it's the following Rameir, Ditnan, Kashru Balav B'Moseira, if the owner tied the animal with the reins, V'nal B'Fanei Karoi, and locked the stable property, the yachts of a hizik, and it went out and damaged, Bein Tam, Bein Muad Chayiv, whether it's a Tam, and he's Chayiv a Chatzi Nezik, or Mu, he's Chayiv a Nezik Shalom, he's Chayiv, Divra Meir. So he says that's because they're arguing about Psukim. That's, you can't draw an inference from there. Hasan B'Kroi Pligi, they're arguing whether Stam Shvarim B'Chesker Shima Kaima or La B'Chesker Shima Kaima. You can't draw an inference to anything else. Elahora Meir did not litzvaya lo yadem mitzvah shachar, if you told him to dye it red and he dyed it black. Shachar mitzvah edem Rameir I'm a light nice and light the mate sivra. He has to pay for the mistake. So the Gemara says no. There it's talking about where he did it on purpose. Marshall did it on purpose. Hasan b'yadayim kolomina. He did it on purpose. He dyed it the wrong color. Elahora Meir. This is the definitive Rameir. The Tanan, we learned earlier in the Masechta, Nishbar, it feels like a long time ago when we learned this. Nishbar kadai v'loi silka. If Marshall breaks a pitcher and doesn't remove it from the street, or naflei gamlai, or his camel falls, v'loi amida, and he doesn't pick it up, and then somebody hurts himself on the pitcher or on the camel, Rameir says that Marshall is chayiv. He's chayiv. He's potter in the human court. He's chayiv ethically. And what's the case? The case is where Marshall broke the pitcher because he tripped, or he tripped and then his animal fell on him. The kaimelon de benisko peisheo pligi. The Rameir holds that tripping is considered a negligence, and therefore he's chayiv for the pursuant damage, while the Rabbanan say tripping is not a negligence. So you see that Rameir is of the opinion that a person has to be more careful. Ibayle lemir me nafshe. Amar Rabba Bava Kama, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabba Bava Kama says now, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, just getting on the way over here, on a beautiful Motzei Shabbos, as we stretch our, when we learn 3 blot, we stretch our neshama. It's a really good thing. As I said, when a person grows a little older, the mind, when you stretch it, it's very healthy for the mind. Very, very healthy. Amar Rabba Bava Kama, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Tabach umen shekilkel chayiv. A professional shaychet that messes up is chayiv. Va'afilu hu umen kitavkei tzipurei. Even if he's a professional like the real pros of tzipurei. Says the Gemara, Mi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Achi, did Rabbi Yochanan say this? V'Amar Rabba Bava Kama of the Bava Kama Rabbi Yochanan beknishta de ma'ayin. There was a ma'ase before Rabbi Yochanan, a famous shul of ma'ayin. V'amalei, and he said, Zil Aisi Raya de Mamchis l'Tanig Gailim. He told the sheikhet, go bring me proof that you're an expert for shechting chickens. Ve'efterach, and I'll exempt you from paying. So you see that if you're a mumcha and you mess up, you're exempt. So the Gemara says, it makes a difference. If you did it for money, you're chayiv even if you're an expert. If you did it for free, then you're not chayiv, like kasha. Kan b'chinan, kan b'schar. Ki hadir amar Reb Zera, like Reb Zera said, ha'roitze she is chayiv loy tabach. If you want the tabach to be liable, yaktim loy dinner. Make sure to pay him beforehand. So the Gemara says, Meisvei, ha'moyle chitin l'toichin. If you bring your wheat to a grinder, v'loy lasasan, and he didn't soak the wheat beforehand, and therefore v'as and subin, instead of making flour, it produces coarse bran, or immersin, or fine bran. Kemach l'nachtaim, if you gave flour to a baker, and v'asu pasni pilus, and he made it into crumbly bread, behema letabach, an animal to a professional butcher v'nibla, chayiv. Mipnei shu k'noisei sacher. It's because he's like a paid watchman. So that means, it seems to imply that even if you don't pay him, he's still chayiv. Says the Gemara, no, amend it. Because he's paid. The only reason why he's chayiv, if he's a professional, is because he's paid. Hahu magrumta. Now this is a actually very technical term. In shchita of the trachea. Trachea is the windpipe. By an animal, you have to shecht two simanim, the windpipe and the kana and the vashin, the windpipe and the trachea and the esophagus. The trachea has cartilage, rings of cartilage around it, and when doing the shchita, you have to do it inside the tissue of one of the rings. You can't go and do part of it by one ring and then part of it by the next ring. There is a machlokes if you do the majority inside one area and then the minority you do in another area. So there's one opinion that it's good and one opinion that it's not. Sahu magrumta, where he did the majority within one of the rings, and then he went out of that area and he finished it off. The asay lekame de Rav that came before Rav tarfe, Rav declared it a treifa, upotre letavach milishlume demei, and he exempted the butcher from paying. Pogobe Rav Kahana Ravasi. Rav Kahana and Ravasi met the owner of the animal, Bo Gavra. Amalei, so they said to him, of the Bach Rav Tarte. Rav ruled two things. Now, it sounds like he ruled against you in two areas. First, he ruled that the majority in one ring is not enough, and it's no good. And secondly, he ruled that the butcher doesn't have to pay you. So the Gemara says, my tarte, what did he mean? He ruled two. Ilay metarte legriyusa. He ruled against you in two areas. He could have told you that Hagrama is good if it's in the majority in one ring, like Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Yehuda v'tarfa k'Rabbanan, but he declared it a treif like the Rabbanan. V'inami k'Rabbanan, and even if he ruled like the Rabbanan, he should have said that the butcher has to pay you, and he didn't do that either. He didn't make the butcher pay you. So he ruled against you and he threw the book at you. So the Gemara says, are you allowed to talk about a paisik that way? As we welcome in Yitzi Flum, Mitchell Flum, as our 30th Zoomer of the evening. 30th Zoomer of the evening. Says the Gemara, are you allowed to say this? Vatanya likishayatza. When the Dayanim leave the courtroom, Lo Yomer, one of the Dayanim should not say to the one of the litigants, Ani Mizaka, I held you were right. The Chaveirei Mechayven, my colleagues ruled against you. What could I do? Shechaveirei Rabba Olav. You're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to make it sound, I was on your side, but what could I do? If a person is peddler, Megala's side, revealing secrets, you're not supposed to say what goes on behind the closed doors of the courtroom. They said Rav did you two favors. First of all, he saved you from eating something that might not have been kosher. And by ruling that you should not take by ruling that you should not take money from the butcher, he saved you from stealing from the butcher. So It's all how you spin it. You have to know they were saying something good and not something bad. Imar, Hamara Dino. You know, in some yeshivas, these 3 blot might take a month. So we're covering ground tonight.
Feels like it.
Now I wonder what it would be like if Marshall was here. Imar, where's Mark? He's missing a lot of fun tonight.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
if the shaykhit was not a professional shaykhit, you might have to pay, right?
for sure. He should.
Only if it's
Right, the Rishonim say if it was not professional, he shouldn't have done it. Now, Imar. Hamara Dino L'Shulchani. If, let's say, Irving had a coin, he wasn't sure if it was a counterfeit. And the money changer said, Irving, it's a good coin. V'nim tzara, and then when Irving tried to take it and spend it, it turns out that nobody accepts it. So Tani Chada Umen Potter, one brisa says that a professional would be Potter, but Hedyet Chayiv, but an amateur would be Chayiv to pay Irving. The Tani Yidach Bein Umen Bein Hedyet Chayiv. Even a professional is Chayiv. So how do we explain? Amra Papa Ki Tanya Umen Potter, he has to be a real professional. He studied all the different counterfeits, and he knows Kitanya Uman Potter going Danku v'Isser, like the experts in counterfeit, Danku and Isser, they don't have to brush up on the new counterfeits. So the Gemara says, so then why did they make a mistake? If they were such experts, then how come Irving got messed up? Elabamai To says, the Gemara To b'sichsa chadato dahi shavta the nafik metusei sichsa. There was a new dye that the government just started to use, and they weren't familiar about it yet because it didn't become known yet. So you couldn't hold them accountable for that. Hayi itza the achzia dinra l'Rebbi Chia. She showed a dinner to Rabbi Chia. Amalah, Rabbi Chia said to her, Ma'al Yehu, it's a good coin, it's fine. L'macher aise l'kamei, the next day she brought it to Rabbi Chia. V'amalei achzise, I brought it to the bank. V'amalei bishu, and they told me it's a counterfeit. V'lei kardofically, they don't want to take it from me. Amalei l'Rav, so Rabbi Chia told his nephew Rav, Zil Chofer Nihala, give her a fresh dinner. The cost of Apinkasi, and write down in my account book, Dain Asik Bish. This was a bad deal. So the Gemara says, why did he have to replace it? He was an expert. They're exempt because they were experts. Rav Chia also didn't have to learn. He was an expert. Says the Gemara, he did within the strict letter of the law. He didn't have to refund it, but he did lefnim eshur sadin. Now, how do we know that there is an idea to do something lefnim eshur sadin? Kedetani Rav Yosef, this is a very famous pasuk. V'haydata lahem, and you should inform them. Zeh beis chayim. This means you should make yeshivas. Yeshivas are called the house of life because Torah is life. Ki maitzai matzah chayim. So you should make houses of life. Here in the Aguz Shul Beis Zev, Two Valley Stream, we have a house of life. Es haderech, you should show them the way. Zu gemilas chasadim. These are acts of kindliness. Yelchu zu bikur chaylim, and Rashi elsewhere says, why does it have to say bikur chaylim especially? That's part of kindliness, to visit the sick. So Rashi says the chiddush is, he doesn't say it here, but he says the chiddush is, even if you're ben gilai, even if you're under the same planetary influence as the sick man, and you take away a 60th of his sickness, so you could get a little bit not well. So you might think that you don't have a chiyuv to do it. You still have a chiyuv to do it. Ba zukfura, that's burial. And here, Rashi says that's also kindliness, but it comes to include even a zokein, who you might think it's eina lefi kvaydai to engage in burial, that even an older person should engage in burial. Esa maisa, you should do actions, ze'adin, that's the strict letter of the law, which we learned in this week's parsha. Asher yason, this is a reference that you should go, zulafnim mishrasadin, you should go if you're able, even within the strict letter of the law. Now we're just going to pause a moment over here, Rabbi Isai, to change the channel, please.